Welcome back to Never Did It, Season 3, Ladies Wow. I'm Jake Ziegler, and I'm here with Brad Garoon. On Never Did It, we look back at the last 100 plus years of movie history in an effort to fill in some of our own movie blind spots. Today we're covering the decade of the 1990s, and there were so many good movies directed by women from this decade that we are eschewing a guest on this episode because we are doing a supersize 4-film episode this week, and I think we have 4 very unique and very interesting movies to talk about. But we'll introduce the movies first. We're going to be covering Jane Campion's The Piano, Kathryn Bigelow's Strange Days, Beeban Kidron's To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, and Kasi Lemmons' debut film, Eve's Bayou.
So we're starting with The Piano.
Let's start with The Piano. Yeah, that's probably the most, it's pretty depressing amongst the 4 that we watched. Probably the most, maybe a little more than Eve's Bayou, but we'll get there.
I kind of don't even think Eve's Bayou is depressing, but The Piano absolutely is. So tell me why you recommended this movie for us.
Well, I hadn't seen it in a long time. I know I had seen it probably not long after it had come out. It was right around the time I started getting into the Oscars and watching all of the Oscar films. And The Piano did very well at the Oscars. Jane Campion was nominated for Best Director, which was even rarer back then. I think at the time she was the second or third woman to have been nominated, so it was really rare back then. And it had 8 total nominations. It ran into the Schindler's List juggernaut. We'll cover the awards a little bit later, but still, it won 3 Academy Awards out of 8 nominations. So that's a really strong count. So that's when I had first seen it. And Jane Campion came back into the Oscar spotlight a couple of years ago with Power of the Dog, which was really good and really well received, and I know you had liked that, so I thought it would be interesting to go back and look at this film 30 years on. That's not streaming anywhere. Both watched the 4K ultra high def version. Mostly I just I wanted to see it again too, just because it had been a long time, and the cast is amazing.
I think this is probably the first time that you and I have both had to watch this on a Criterion disc and the first time we've both had access to the Criterion 4K.
I think you're right.
I borrowed it from my neighbor, who also gave me Jane Campion's Top of the Lake and Top of the Lake China Girl, which I haven't gotten to yet. You said it'd been a while since you'd seen it. What did you think of it now? I
think it's pretty great still. That was my impression of it back then, and I still think it's pretty great. It is depressing, and it's bleak, and literally bleak. Like, the color palette of this movie is so just gray and these like kind of muted greens and pale blues. It's very depressing to look at, but it's also, it's photographed so beautifully. I mean, the cinematography in this movie is fantastic. I think the story is really interesting, and I think it's really well played. This, for those who don't know, we haven't even talked about what the movie's about yet. The movie takes place in the, I want to say, was it like 1860s, mid 1800s? Yeah, they're in New Zealand. There's a wealthy, or not really wealthy, businessman. I think I get kind of confused with how much money he had or didn't have. But Sam Neill is like a businessman in New Zealand, and he arranges to be married to Holly Hunter, named Ada, and she doesn't speak, and they don't ever really explain why. It's not due to some trauma that she had in her life. She just doesn't speak, and even she says she doesn't know why. And she has a daughter who's played by Anna Paquin, who kind of speaks for her, but Ada primarily speaks through her piano. And when she moves in with her new husband, she has to take her piano with her, insists on having her piano with her, even at great difficulty to the people who have to move it. And then once the piano is there, her husband trades it or sells it off to the Harvey Keitel character, who has lived amongst the Maori tribe there and even has some of their facial tattoos. And he has an accent. I'm not sure how good or not good it is. I'm not a good judge of accents. So,
well, he's meant to be British. Like, at first I thought he was meant to be Maori, and I was like, oh, that's terrible. When I realized he was British, I'm like, it's just a regular, not good British accent. It's not exceptionally bad.
Yeah, like I couldn't quite figure it out at some points, but he's Harvey Keitel. I'm not going
to. That's it. He sounds like Harvey Keitel. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, and that's okay. But the piano gets traded to Harvey Keitel. It's arranged that Ada's going to go and give him lessons. Well, Harvey Keitel wants more from Ada than lessons, and he basically offers her a number of keys from the piano for each basically escalating sexual favor she performs for him. And that's, I think, enough of an intro to the plot without giving away the whole rest of the movie.
First 5 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, we're in Jane Campion land. I'd never seen this. The waves look incredible. Like, there's shots of the beach, and not even the piano, because the piano's still in a box, a big, shipping box. But Holly Hunter and Anna Paquin are not abandoned by the sailors who brought them there. Holly Hunter is a very difficult person, and she shoos them away. She insults them, and they leave the 2 women, well, Anna Paquin's a little girl, on the beach because Sam Neill and his crew of Maori helpers haven't reached them yet. So they stay overnight, and they build this little campfire and this little tent over it. And it is some of the most stunning cinematography you'll ever see in a movie. The 4K looks amazing. These waves in the background, even with, as you said, these muted colors. The only color in the shot for in this part is the little fire under the tent. And it's so cute. Anna Paquin's like, is the tent going to catch on? I can't do her accent. And her accent's pretty good, especially for a little girl.
She
Is
won
the
an
tent
Oscar.
second youngest person to ever win an Oscar?
I think second, after Tatum. Yeah, Tatum O'Neal won for Paper Moon, so second.
Also well-deserved in both cases. And I have to say that the way that the colors were sapped out of the movie after that, for the most part, not always. I remember there's a very pivotal scene, sort of that kicks off the third act, where Anna Paquin gives something to Sam Neill. It's raining, and Sam Neill's chopping wood, and there's forest all around them. And I remember in that moment thinking, wow, the movie is, again, like so green. And then that gets sapped out again. And I have a lot of questions for Jane Campion if I ever talked to her about why those choices were made. It was a little bit hard for me to stay super engaged, because it was like a sugar rush of visual feast at the beginning, and then that goes away. But as you said, I do agree. The performances were unreal. It had some voiceover narration at the beginning and the end that I really didn't like.
Didn't really add much, no.
Yeah, especially because the whole point of Holly Hunter's character is that she doesn't speak. And I feel like it a little bit was not insulting to the audience, but this is what I feel about voiceover narration a lot of the time. It's like it's telling us something that we could have learned in the course of the movie. But Holly Hunter, it's her voice with the accent, saying this is not her speaking voice, it's her thinking voice, which honestly would have been better had it kept coming back throughout the movie. But that it was just there in the beginning and the end, I thought it's just framing things that are very obvious, actually. Keitel is very good despite the accent, and Sam Neill is great. He doesn't get the most flashy stuff to do, but he does very well with his brooding husband. I'm not saying Keitel is like nice to her. I mean, he coerces her. That's sort of like the progression of the movie, is him, as you said, coercing her into doing more and more intimate things. But as the movie shakes out, the way she feels about these two men, it's like what he does is not as bad. Or in hindsight, doesn't seem as bad. Pretty bad.
No, at the time, yes, but knowing the whole story in the end, it's like, so it's like, it's the 1860s. They don't know, like, what are you going to do? We're going to go back and cancel whoever wrote, the piano. Well, actually, no, it's an original screenplay. It's not based on a book, but whatever. It was a long time ago. It's okay.
I'm not trying to cancel the screenwriter. I'm just saying, like, Harvey Keitel,
I know.
What's his name? Birch or whatever his name is? George Baines.
Yeah, George Baines, yeah.
Yeah, Baines. We can cancel Baines, but whatever.
Yes.
But the real standout in this movie is the person who was awarded the most, which was Anna Paquin, who is asked to do a lot. There's not a false note. You would think that she was about to be the greatest actor of all time. That didn't really pan out. Every time she was on the screen, I knew something funny or wild was going to happen. She's hilarious. And she is the driver of the plot, because she makes all these decisions that, it's funny, as she picks up more agency for herself and as her opinions differ from her mother's more and more, things spiral completely out of control. And granted, this is a small movie. There's not a lot happening, but every time Anna Paquin makes a choice that goes against what her mom wants, it's very funny, and then it's very terrifying.
Right. It's usually both of those things. I want to go back to something you said, too, about the colors, where there was, where you'd have these pops of colors, these sugar rushes of colors. And I think it's kind of another visual representation of the way she feels like she only has these bursts of happiness when she's playing her piano. And then her life goes back to, holy crap, I'm stuck in this thing with Harvey Keitel, where she hasn't quite, discovered her feelings for him yet, or, I'm, with this monstrous husband I have, or any of these things. So I think that's a kind of a visual representation of that. But and the piano, whoever's doing the piano playing this too is gorgeous. I mean, the piano music is fantastic in this. There's just so much that's good about the movie. It's really a pleasure to go back, and for a movie that was so depressing, it was like a pleasure to watch, because it was just so well made and so well constructed and so well acted, and just the costumes and the sets, everything about it was just it's really excellent. And in another year, I think if it wasn't Schindler's List, like, the piano could have been an even bigger Oscar movie.
Especially when you consider the set design and the costume design, you really feel like you're there. More than a lot of movies, this feels really genuinely antique. And I don't know what New Zealand was like in the 1850s. This was all pretty new to me. In our document, you listed Cliff Curtis as one of the main cast, which is interesting because he's barely in the movie, but he is a recognizable face. He's someone
I just wanted to shout him out. Yeah, I mean, he has to be in a movie like this. He's in, every movie, that requires that kind of character. He's always around. I just wanted to point him out.
I was kind of surprised because I just watched Wrecking Crew, the Dave Bautista, Jason Momoa movie, and Tamura Morrison is in that because it takes place in Hawaii, and if there's a Polynesian movie, Tamura Morrison has to be in it. And it's funny that, like, in the 90s it was Cliff Curtis, and now it's very much Tamura Morrison. Although Tamura Morrison was around back then, he played Jango Fett in 1999, so Jango Fett's not Maori. But anyway, this is all to bring up. What did you think of the depiction of the Maori in this movie? Because I at times was like, is this really what she wants to be doing? Like, is this an important thing for her to show that they, like, don't know what fiction is and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it was almost like they're going out of her way to show them as not smart, I guess, or primitive. I didn't think there was too much of it where I really got caught up thinking about it, but there were a few times that I do remember thinking, kind of thinking the same thing, like just a little.
I'm not even sensitive to that stuff really. And it really was just like two scenes. There's a play where there's a murder, and the Maori very much think it's real and almost kill people in the play because they think these women have been beheaded. And then there's just scenes. There's like a scene where Cliff Curtis steals a bunch of buttons and then makes his Maori face. Now I know that the haka face, like that, like sticking out your tongue and that kind of thing, is actually part of Maori culture. It just like struck me as weird that it was like, I stole your buttons and now I'm going to make these faces. And like, I think buttons are currency. That was all very strange. Maybe there are good reasons for both of those things. They may have been trying to impress upon us how much more these savage Maori were worried about the safety of these women than their white counterparts were. There are very generous reads of it, but I was like, ugh. In both cases.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree with that. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, which is what I had it at from previously, and I think that's still good. There's just a few little things wrong, but man, when it's all the good things about it are just so strong.
Yeah, it didn't hold my attention the whole way through, and I was feeling a little lower, but now that we've had this talk, it's a 4-star movie for me, I think.
I mentioned the Oscars a little bit too. I'll just hit these real quick. Like I said, picture and director, of course, lost to Schindler's List and Steven Spielberg. Holly Hunter won Best Actress. Anna Paquin won Best Supporting Actress. Also interesting, Holly Hunter was nominated twice that year. So Anna Paquin also defeated Holly Hunter in the supporting actress race. Holly Hunter was nominated for The Firm. Also then it won original screenplay. It lost costume design to The Age of Innocence, which again, Age of Innocence is a gorgeous period movie with amazing costumes.
I'm wearing my Daniel Plainview cardigan right now.
Yeah, that's another great costumed movie. The last two, cinematography and film editing, which also lost both to Schindler's List.
Cool stuff. All right, what's next on the list?
It's a movie that did not garner any Oscar nominations, but holy crap, this movie rips. And it's called Strange Days, directed by Kathryn Bigelow. We both had to find used DVD versions of this from eBay, because this movie is not streaming anywhere, and I don't understand why. I had never seen this movie before. You chose this one. Tell us why, and tell us a little bit about it.
This movie was on heavy rotation in my home growing up. It was on HBO all the time, or Cinemax or whatever. But I loved it from the beginning because it had exactly what a teenage me wanted, which was dystopian near future with a little bit of sci-fi. And a lot of people like to say that this movie is very prescient. I think in a lot of ways it is, but I don't think it was trying to be. I think what Bigelow was trying to do was talk about the problems of 1995, not the problems of 2026. I'll talk about what the movie's about in a second, but it was written by James Cameron, directed by Kathryn Bigelow, written in the wake of the Rodney King assault. And there were riots. We see echoes of this now, of course, but this movie features a lot of police brutality, corruption, racial animus, and where it is prescient is in the way, now it's talking about drugs in its use of its sci-fi conceit. What it could not have known was that social media would become such a numbing opiate for America. And you could replace, well, let me talk about what the movie's about, and then I'll talk about what you could replace things with. Ralph Fiennes has one of the great protagonist names in any movie ever, Lenny Nero. It's a neo-noir, and it's a perfect noir name. Lenny Nero, playing his violin as Los Angeles Burns. He plays an ex-cop and now a drug dealer of sorts, but the drug he is dealing is a virtual reality concept. Well, it's called a squid, but you wire in. And it's a net. It's basically a hairnet. They call it a hairnet throughout the movie. There are two kinds. There's one you put on your head and it records what you're seeing and feeling. It taps into like nodes in your brain. And then other people can then play back. Oh, it's called playback. And then other people can play back your experience. And those experiences that are getting played back are things like you're an 18-year-old girl taking a shower. There's a lot of just like sex stuff. This is a very erotic movie. Lenny Nero himself is an addict. He keeps watching playback of intimate moments he's had with his ex-girlfriend, who's played by Juliette Lewis, who was a heroin junkie who then met Nero, cleaned up, became a musician, and then is now in a relationship with Michael Wincott's evil record producer character. Michael Wincott, one of the great character actors, especially because of his unmistakable voice. And on the side, you have these this movie has so many great character performances. You've got an iconic, and I mean iconic in like a very specific way. I'm not just saying it to annoy Jake. Angela Bassett as Nero's friend, who's a security guard / cab driver, limo driver. I say iconic because, well, I'll get to it in a second. And she's his friend and his basically his girl Friday throughout the movie. And then you've got Tom Sizemore as Nero's also security / private investigator friend, Max, who throughout the movie, I watched this with my wife, throughout the movie, she was like, I don't know if Max is going to be evil or if he's going to die, but one of those two things is going to happen to him.
Maybe both. We don't know.
There are two big storylines in this movie. One is Iris, this prostitute. At the very beginning of the movie, she runs away from two crooked cops played by Vincent D'Onofrio and William Finchner. God damn, this movie's cast rules. She gets away. She has something on playback that they don't want her to make public. And Iris also works for Philo, which is Michael Wincott's character. This is how much I love this movie. I rarely can remember character names, but I know every character in this movie.
I mean, Philo, how can you not hate that guy just from hearing his name?
Totally. And Juliette Lewis says the name over and over and over again throughout the movie.
And she's got that unique voice where it's just like, I'll have that burned into my brain, just the way she says it, you know?
Yeah. Leave him alone, Philo. Her name's Faith.
Oh, yeah, she's fantastic in this.
She works for Philo, and at the same time, there is a serial murderer, it seems, who is tormenting Lenny with playback videos of himself assaulting and killing people while forcing them to do playback of him recording them. It's all very it's a wild route. Now, there's so much happening in this movie. You would think that it all feels like all over the place, and I really don't think it does. I feel like the movie does a very good job of not connecting the dots for you, because they really don't get connected until like the final scene of the movie, but of only putting the important parts front and center. And the most important thing is Lenny is an addict. He's really strung out. He needs help figuring out what's going on. And if it wasn't for Angela Bassett, her character's name is Mace, he would fall apart all over the place completely. And then just one last thing before I ask you what you thought of it, but I also just want to call out Glenn Plummer plays like the Rodney King analog in this movie, Jericho 1. Richard Edson plays Tick. You might know him better from the original, the 90s Mario Brothers movie. Nicky Katt plays one of, who passed away last year, plays one of Philo's henchmen with a spiderweb tattoo on his bald head. It's very Red Hot Chili Peppers-ish. So obviously I love the shit out of this movie. I think
dude. Yeah, me too.
Okay, good.
I can't wait to see it. I loved the movie so much. Like my wife and I watched it, and she was into it with me too. So it got both of us. But yeah, it was just like nonstop. Yeah, there's always something happening, and it looks cool. At first, the dialogue is like, you realize like, yeah, it's probably written by James Cameron. Kind of get that sense. But like at some point, it just stops mattering, because like the dialogue may be basic, but like what they're saying and like what they're expressing and what they're moving towards is so cool, and it's so interesting. And the end, it builds and builds and builds to this just chaotic scene, which I heard was read was very chaotic in real life as well. That there was, I couldn't believe some of the things that happened. I was like, you could not get away with that on a movie set today, and for such a big movie, at the time, because I don't know how I didn't see it, because I was 13 or 14 when it came out, but I don't know, we didn't really have HBO in our house growing up, so like if I missed it at the theater, there's a million movies to rent, I guess for whatever reason I just never rented it. Ebert must not have praised it highly enough or something, because I usually saw like the movies he rated really highly. I don't know, that's my excuse, but yeah, I'm sad I waited so long to see it, because it was just an adrenaline rush. Like it was almost stressful in the way that like a Safdie Brothers movie is, but in a different, and it's hard to put my finger on a different kind of stressful, but it was just like I just felt like my blood going through the whole, like I was just like hyped up through like the whole movie, and I loved feeling like that.
Yeah, it starts you off right away. First off, the Safdie Brothers, I hadn't thought of it. What if the Safdie Brothers made movies in the 90s in the studio system? It starts with, you get right into what playback is. There's a group of, in fact, my wife found this a little confusing, because it is confusing. It's very jarring how it happens. There's a group of thugs who are about to rob a Chinese food restaurant, and you're in their point of view, and the guy who's recording the whole thing dies. So also, this is being used to make snuff films. Like, this is so seedy and underground. This is disgusting, this world. And in like a post-Epstein world, this also takes on a whole new meaning. These things that are being traded by people both rich and poor. The Philo character is actually really interesting when it comes to that kind of thing. You also find out throughout the movie that a lot of people are wearing wigs to hide that they're doing this.
Yeah.
All the time.
And one's at a really key moment, too. There's a really crucial wig moment in the movie, too.
There's two. There's the Iris wig moment, and then there's the one you're talking about that I won't want to spoil. That when it happened, I was just, every time I'm like, yeah!
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, I almost jumped off the couch.
Let me go back real quick to this. Why is the Angela Bassett performance so iconic? You may have heard the Fatboy Slim song "Right Here, Right Now," where you hear someone throughout most of the song going, "Right here, right now." That is Angela Bassett yelling the revolutionary Jericho 1 phrase that he gets. Basically, he gets killed because Vincent D'Onofrio is a lunatic. But Jericho 1 is this like revolution. He's a rapper, but he's also trying to talk about. He's doing like BLM, basically talking about how it is different for black people in America than it is for white people in America. Evergreen comment. And she echoes that to Ray Fiennes' Lenny Nero when he freaking out and wanting to just slip into his playback haze. It's such a good movie about drugs and addiction. And then on top of that, like you said, it's just a blood boiler. It feels crazy when you're watching it.
Yeah, it's insane. Like just the pace that it maintains, it's relentless. And I mean, it is one of the fastest 2 hour. I think it's 2:20, but it goes by so fast. It's never boring. I mean, there's just always just something cool going on. I really would like to watch it again. Like I got, real hype after seeing it. It's like, I would love to watch this again and again, and then maybe again.
Ebert did give this 4 out of 4 stars.
Well, what the hell? How did I miss it then? Like, that was my whole thing. I was watching all the Ebert's great movies. Well, my bad. I'm so glad that we did this podcast and that we chose this theme for this season so that we had a reason to finally watch Strange Days.
So my next move is to watch Near Dark, because I am forgiving Kathryn Bigelow for what I thought was a very bad movie in House of Dynamite, because I've loved all her other movies. I am a Detroit apologist even. So
Detroit I thought was really good. Yeah, people don't like Detroit?
No, people just don't like Detroit.
They're wrong.
Well, the fact that Detroit exists actually is my reasoning for thinking that Bigelow and Cameron weren't trying to be like, Terminator 2 is a movie about the future. Terminator is a movie about the future. I don't think that Strange Days is a movie about the future. I think Strange Days is a movie about the present, because right after this, or not right after this, 15 years after this, Bigelow makes Detroit a movie about the past, but basically about the same issues as Strange Days, with a slightly less white saviory deal going on. Although Mace really does save the day in the end.
It really does, yeah. I want to say about Strange Days, one last thing, how Bradley Cooper is Ray Fiennes in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, the hair big time.
Like, he just looks like him. He's got the vibe. Like, he kind of just looks like him, yeah.
Well, I guess we haven't praised Ray Fiennes enough. And just in general, Ray Fiennes, I think, especially in the last, 3-4 years, if not his whole career, has proven he is one of our absolute greats. His accent work here is a little weird. He's doing a lot of rough R's. He's doing a real affected performance, but the movie rests on his shoulders and he's awesome in it. I was so into it, especially because he looks like a doofus the whole time. He's wearing terrible clothes. Yeah. Ties are enormous. Everything's shiny, but he's so good and he's so charming. And I would want to be friends with Lenny Nero.
I would too. And he's probably a bad friend. In fact, we know he's a bad friend. Yeah, I mean, Angela Bassett, Mace tells him several times he's a bad friend. But yeah, there's just something undeniable about him. And we've covered a bunch of his movies on the podcast. We've talked about him a lot. You think of this guy, Schindler's List, In Bruges, English Patient, Grand Budapest Hotel, 28 years later, which I haven't seen The Bone Temple yet, but I obviously saw the first one. Like, there's just, I mean, anything you put this guy in, and he's just going to seamlessly just put himself into it. He's incredible.
I can't believe you didn't mention Quiz Show in that list, just because it's such a Jake movie.
Yeah.
But he is doing the Quiz Show voice as Lenny Nero, which is a bit of a problem.
He is kind of, yeah.
I still, I've always rated this 4.5 stars because it is long. To me, it's it really is the essence of a 5-star movie for me.
Yeah, I have it at 4.5, but I mean, if I watched it again, I might bump it up. If I saw it, but yeah, it's either way, it's like a ripper of a movie, man. It's so cool.
It is so cool. Funny thing, because Richard Edson is in this movie, I said to Annie, I'm like, the original Mario Brothers movie with which Richard Edson was also in, also looks like this. It's like the exact same aesthetic. What was happening in the 90s? Very strange. All right, what's next on our list?
Let's talk about our comedy. To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything. Julie Newmar came out in the mid-90s. I've never seen this one. Had you seen this when you recommended it?
I'd never seen it. I didn't know anything about Beeban Kidron, except that is the most, I would have assumed, Australian name of all time. This movie kind of has an Australian vibe to it.
Certainly.
But it's an American movie by a British director. And I just had a feeling I'd like it, and I did. I liked it quite a bit. I think I liked it just a little bit more than you did. Yeah, I'd never seen it, but I love the principal cast. I've always liked Patrick Swayze. I was really curious what a movie with a cross-dressing Wesley Snipes would be. And John Leguizamo seemed like he was born to play this role.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Mario Brothers movie. And then the female cast in the Dusty Town was great too. I did not actually know what the movie was about. I just knew there are 3 people who do drag. I thought they went on a cross-country road trip to do drag. It is not that. It is a fish out of water comedy because they get stuck in the smallest town imaginable and hijinks ensue. And I was really taken by the way that they both transform themselves and the town during their time in this dusty little backwater. What did you think of To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar?
Before I forget to say it, I wanted to say, and I made this comment to my wife too, who watched it and also liked it. My wife is a big drag enthusiast. She watches RuPaul's drag show. She's really into that whole culture and scene and everything. And she had heard a lot of drag queens really do love this movie and really respond to it, and that it's kind of a respectful look at the culture and the people doing it. So her amateur take, but from someone who is, like I said, also an enthusiast about it. I thought that the makeup of the town I thought was so funny because there's one married couple, and then like 10 18 to 22-year-old guys, and then like 10 40 to 50-year-old women. And that's like the whole makeup of the town. It's just the demographics on that, I think, is very interesting. But I quite enjoyed the movie. It's a great deal of fun. The performances are very good. Swayze and Leguizamo and Wesley Snipes all do, really good job with this stuff. There's some really, really funny parts in it. And there's some really, touching moments in it too. I think the story gets a little bit scattered at some points and goes off the, kind of off the main point a couple of times. But like I said, when it works, it works really well. And it's just a nice movie. It's one of those movies like you just feel good when it's over.
For sure. And while it's happening, I mean, I could not believe, I fully bought that Patrick Swayze would be 110% into this character. And I couldn't imagine that Snipes would do it and not give it 110% too. But the lengths that he went to really make me believe that he was a drag queen were unbelievable. And my only real exposure to drag is, my 26th birthday was at a drag club. Pretty fun. And I watched The Traitors, and Bob the Drag Queen was a great contestant on that in the previous season, not this season, which is also amazing. Highly recommend everybody watch The Traitors. The show is unreal. But to me, it always felt very, for as little as I know about it, very true to what drag queendom is. I also really like Trixie and Katya, their podcast. They're two drag queens. They're the funniest people. And I can't listen to Sofia Coppola or Greta Gerwig talk anymore because of the way that Trixie and Katya have exposed the crispy R. Like this.
That's where you got that from. Yeah. I think my wife watches or listens to that podcast who knows who they are. Trixie and Katya. Yeah. What's the name of their show? Isn't it just called Something Ridiculous or
The Bald and the Beautiful?
I'm thinking of something else maybe.
These are two of the funniest human beings alive, Trixie and Katya. And so it never feels like the movie is making fun of the main characters at all. And also it never feels like that they feel that they're above anyone else. Like their troubles feel real. And I like that they never break character, or it's never a game to them. Like this is their life and this is who they really are. I like that a lot. It never shows its hand.
There's no winking. There's no wink in the movie at all, which is perfect for this material.
For sure. And for the townspeople too. It's respectful of every character with maybe one exception. It's not even disrespectful to the character. It's just this character is really naive to an absurd degree. And it's Bobby Ray, Jason London's character.
Oh yeah.
Does not know that John Leguizamo is a drag queen.
I mean, come on, yeah.
But that does lead to a lot of funny stuff. What I also loved about it was when the reveal happens, it's not some horrible thing where he loses his temper and whatever. In fact, all the violence is from people who you would expect the violence to be from. So let's talk about that. Chris Penn, one of his finest performances.
I was dying when they first showed the list when he was, places for homos or whatever, and he had that list. It was ballet school, and places for brunch. I think we had to pause it. I was laughing so hard. And he was so earnest. The thing about Chris Penn, how he plays it in this movie, and it reminded me of a movie that I don't particularly like, that other people do like, Tropic Thunder, whereas I think the funniest person in that movie is McConaughey, and also Tom Cruise. But McConaughey is so funny in that movie because he's playing it like it's the most serious drama that's ever happened to anyone ever. And that's how Chris Penn is treating this material too. And again, he's not winking at it. He's really embodying this, these drag queens are, and these homos, and I'm going to, uncover this. And he's so perfect in it. It's the best performance he's ever given, I think, in anything.
So we should say he's a sheriff who pulls over Leguizamo, Swayze, and Snipes for no reason. This is the second movie we've watched where this happens for this episode, because it also happens in Strange Days. And he's turned on by Swayze, and he tries to assault Swayze, and then gets his ass kicked, and is passed out all night because of how badly he got his ass kicked, to the point where Annie and I looked at each other like, he would have died. If he's unconscious for that long, he'd be dead.
I also thought that assault didn't look that violent, where I was like, was that enough to knock him out for 12 hours? Come on. Right. But it also didn't need to be a super violent movie, so I'll get past it.
It really shouldn't have been a super violent movie. He's so embarrassed by what's happened to him because of the fact that he's had feelings for a man, that he goes on this crusade, including the hilarious list you mentioned.
God, there's this other amazing scene in the movie to where he's sitting at the bar and he starts talking about what gay men are doing with each other, and it becomes so obvious that he's very very closeted. I can't remember what he's saying, but he's just sitting there there's stubble rubbing up against each other and they're strong arms holding each other. And again, he's so serious about it too. It's just so fantastic. I did not expect the funniest person in the movie to be Chris Penn.
It's totally true. And then there is a more evil character Arliss Howard, who made a nice comeback recently in David Fincher's The Killer, plays Virgil, who is Stockard Channing's husband. And this guy's vile and has no redeeming qualities and is abusive to his wife and not funny. So you get like the comedic effect of Chris Penn's character and then the actual like kind of scary underbelly with Arliss Howard's character. And of course they team up. But of course the town has been transformed. So there's enough to fight back against them. At the end of the movie. The best part of the movie is when the young men you were talking about, who seem like pretty scary because there's a lot of them, when they start harassing Leguizamo and then are really taught a lesson and then completely turn around.
Yeah, like once within the, and it just takes like one incident and that's it. But again, it's that kind of movie where it's okay.
Right. And there are some people who aren't redeemed, which is important because not everyone will be cured of their hatred. And I think it really worked. So I don't know. I was very happy to finally see this. And then next stop for me, the movie that I always got this confused with will be Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, because I think they came out around the same time.
It did. Priscilla came out the year before, and I was swearing up and down before to Wong Fu. It's like, oh yeah, this movie had an Oscar nomination. It was nominated for costume design. But no, that was Priscilla, and it was the year before. So I absolutely got them confused also. But I would, also really like to watch Priscilla. It's got Guy Pearce, right? And that is a very Australian movie.
So we'll do an Australian miniseries at some point and make sure Priscilla.
Yeah, I already made you watch The Proposition, didn't I? Didn't we do that in season 1?
That's the Guy Pearce movie. That's a Western.
Yeah, the Australian Western. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then let's wrap it up with Eve's Bayou. This is not a great movie to be the finale because of the content of the movie.
Yeah, we probably should have done Wong Fu last, or even Strange Days. But this is the hand that I dealt us at the beginning of the night. So let's go with it. Eve's Bayou is one that I chose for you. This was one that I definitely saw because I remember Roger Ebert going nuts for it, and I believe it was his #1 film of 1997, in the year that included films like Titanic and L.A. Confidential, Sweet Hereafter, a lot of great movies in 1997. So
wait, that's crazy. That's crazy that this came out the same year as The Sweet Hereafter, because all I could think about watching this movie was The Sweet Hereafter.
They're so similar. Yeah, I hadn't watched them. I hadn't seen Eve's Bayou in a very long time. Sweet Hereafter, obviously, I've seen more recently. But yeah, now that I've seen them more recently together, I definitely made that connection too. Eve's Bayou, I mentioned at the top of the episode, is the debut film from Kasi Lemmons. This is about a family in New Orleans in the early 1960s. Samuel Jackson is the father, husband, the patriarch, if you will.
I will.
Yes, you will. He's the patriarch, and he's the town doctor. Very well loved by everyone. Very charismatic. I mean, he's Samuel Jackson, of course. What's not to love? His wife is Lynn Whitfield, and they have 2 daughters. I'm trying to figure out how to explain the movie without just straight up telling what happened. Well, the movie kind of tells you straight up what happens in the opening, the voiceover narration, in which the character says, I was 10 years old when I killed my dad.
Yeah, it's wrong footing you though, and I think you kind of are. You kind of know that like what the movie is telling you at the beginning of the movie is, this is going to be from a young girl's point of view. Like, this is how she saw this stretch of time in her life. And from her point of view, she killed her dad when she was 10.
Exactly. And I think that's a really interesting way to frame the movie from the start, because there are so many scenes of the movie of memory and recalling things and, wondering where something. The movie does this really cool effect where when they're placing some, or when they're doing a memory and they're, really visualizing it, the movie physically places the people in that memory, to kind of watch it unfold, or false memory, as it is in some cases. So crux of the movie is the younger daughter, Eve, played by Journey Smollett. She one night sees her dad with another woman, is really upset about this. And her sister basically says, nope, that's not what happened. This is what happened. And then the movie just kind of unfolds from there, with the revealing of all the secrets and, the anger and the hurt and a lot of different things going on in this movie. I still think it's great. I hope. I was really, when I was watching, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope Brad likes this. I'm going to feel really bad if he doesn't.
Why would you feel really bad? So you don't say that to me very often, and you did text that to me. Why did you feel that way about this one?
I just thought it was, the presentation of it I thought was so neat. Like, I was really taken, and I already mentioned it, where they physically place them in their memories. I thought that was really cool. And I just think it's such an interesting movie with the way it starts to make me think about, okay, how our memories are unreliable, are severely unreliable. And then you start to wonder, like, okay, well, are things that I remember, is it not how it really happened? And it can be for, innocent things or, nice things. It doesn't always have to be for something traumatic, but it's just such an interesting look at how our memory functions, especially as young people, because the movie really does a good job being from that 10-year-old perspective and really telling the story from that angle. I don't think a lot of movies do that or do it very well.
Fair enough. I did think that part was very cool. That conceit is very cool. I actually thought it was going to be used more because it was used so effectively early in the movie. And that's not only used early in the movie, it's used throughout, but I don't know, I just thought there'd be more of it. The other cool thing that it does visually, because it takes place in Louisiana, there's a voodoo element to everything. And when the aunt character, who is sort of psychic, has some relationship to voodoo, there's another voodoo mama in the movie who the aunt hates, but who Eve, Journey Smollett's character, is intrigued by. When they have visions, there's some cool like black and white overexposed imagery, which I really liked a lot. Some things in this movie bumped for me. This is Kasi Lemmons' debut. To me, it feels like a debut film. Some of it feels much more competent, well-conceived than others. Like, I think the editing is actually quite bad and felt kind of like a TV movie. And part of what felt like a TV movie was Terrence Blanchard, a composer who I really, really like. He's worked a lot with Spike Lee. He's a jazz player. He does great stuff with brass music. And
the Black Klansman and Five Bloods, and yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he did Malcolm X, I think. He's a really well-seasoned, excellent composer. And a lot of the music, I think because it's from the point of view of a 10-year-old girl, is very like bop, 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 beep, bop, beep, like light piano music that is really reminiscent of made-for-TV film and made-for-DVD film. I bumped up against that. And then what made me even more frustrated about that is there's this final shot of Eve and her sister staring off at the bayou, and this amazing saxophone comes on. And I'm like, where was this?
Yeah.
There's a few shots with it, like in the darker moments when one of these like false memories or conflicting memories is when Cecilia, the older sister, has an encounter with Samuel L. Jackson, her father, and we see that 3 times. It's sort of like a Rashomon, what really happened deal, and thematically it's actually quite similar. All of that's really done well. Also, I just have to say, we're complimented Anna Paquin because she was so good. Journey Smollett also carries a ton here and does really, really good work. Now, she has to just like cry a lot, which is kind of annoying. She convinced me. I mean, I bought it.
As a 10, I mean, it seems like very accurate 10-year-old behavior. Someone who raised a 10-year-old, raised a daughter who was 10 and is now older than that. Yes, I can see it. And Megan Good as the older sister, I thought also was really excellent. And to play those scenes differently, it's not just that we're seeing those scenes differently. The actors have to play them 3 different ways and to, kind of harness those, different feelings to kind of do the same actions. But I thought that was really cool and really well done.
It's tough too. Like, that's not an easy scene to do 3 times. I imagine they shot it all at once, but that's pretty tough. And, now the thing I remember her from is like plays one of the transformed characters in Shazam. Like, that's not the same.
Oh, that's
not
right.
the same level of things.
No, it's not. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but she's quite good. She's directed a couple movies now too. I haven't seen them, but she's making a go of it. This is funny. Twice in this series, we've talked about child performances of Full House alum. We had Journey Smollett here and the little boy in Pet Sematary.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. I mean, anytime we can talk about Full House, I'm happy to do it. I mean, there are other performances in Eve's Bayou too. The women. I mean, Lynn Whitfield as the suffering wife, and Debbie Morgan plays the aunt. All very good. I thought just a really fascinating, interesting movie with some great, and Samuel L. Jackson, he's so often, it's a different role for him because it was a little, I mean, he's still kind of the life of the party and, very much the center of attention and everything he's in, but he was, less like bombastic than like a Nick Fury or, something like that, where it's just a little more measured and a little bit more contained.
And he's gross.
He's gross. Whatever happened, that's the one thing that's important about this movie is that, like, whatever happened, in the scene with Celia and everything else, like, he's pretty gross to begin with. I mean, he's a known philanderer. Yeah,
and he's gaslighting his youngest daughter about what she saw, and
that's another part of another interesting aspect of the film is how he treats the older daughter versus how he treats the younger daughter, which is very much not the same. He won't dance with her in public the same way he will with the older daughter. Like, there's just certain things he won't do with her or won't say to her the way that he does with the older daughter. And that was another interesting thing too to think about, again, as someone who's raised a daughter, and just to think about how you speak to them. Even, I mean, like I said, he was pretty scummy, and I don't worry that I was ever that scummy, and I also only have had one, but still, it just kind of makes you think about the way, like, how important it is, just the way you talk to children. There was actually this really interesting, you won't believe me, but I think it was in the last season, a really interesting episode of The Simpsons. Bart and Lisa ended up having to take steroids for they were sick or something. And while they're on the steroids, they both gain a little weight. And Marge just says in a kind of sing-songy way, is like, oh, someone's getting a little chunky. And it's just like devastating for Lisa, and it like just weighs on her for like the entire episode. And she tries to communicate with Marge about it, and Marge finally, she thinks she gets it, she almost gets it, and then she's like, oh, don't worry, Lisa, you'll be back to normal soon. And then it's like, oh my god, I'm not normal right now. So then that was a whole thing. And then you find out Marge's trigger word from her mom was plain, because her mom just called her plain. It's like a really interesting episode, and there's just a lot of really interesting ways about communicating with children. I went off on a whole super long tangent there, but I just really like that Simpsons episode, and I don't get to mention it enough.
It was not super long. wrong and it was appropriate, I'm leaving it in.
Let's do it.
In fact, I'm not going to mention my friend's name who this happened to. When I was still living in Detroit, actually, you and I together went to WrestleMania when it came to Detroit, the John Cena versus Shawn Michaels year and the Dave Bautista versus Undertaker year, and also another match that I don't want to talk about. I was at a friend of mine's house and his whole family was really into fitness and he was overweight. I was like, yeah, I'm going to WrestleMania. And my friend's mom said to me in front of him, oh, you should take friend's name. He can be in the sumo match. And I couldn't believe it. I've known these people my whole life. And I was like, the humiliation that you just put your son through in front of me, it totally changed. We'd been so close forever, and it completely changed how I saw her. We were adults, granted. Like, well, that's WrestleMania 26, right? So 23?
Yeah, 23 in 2007.
Which means I would have been 23 years old. So we were adults, and also it's awkward for me now. So who was that for? So yeah, Yves Bayou. You love it so much, and also it is so well regarded. Like, so well regarded. And I thought it was all right. I don't know. I'm just never going to look at a movie that has that kind of piano playing throughout and that kind of cinematography and think, the only time it's got to have like more conceptual stuff to it, like The Man from Earth, which I like way more than you do. That's like the only time a movie that looks and sounds like that can stick with me. I'm going to probably forget about Yves Bayou in a little bit. Should we talk about our favorite top 10? We finally both have lists. Top 10 favorite woman-directed movies of the 1990s. For me, number 10 is Nora Ephron's You've Got Mail, the remake of Shop Around the Corner. You know what You Got Mail is. You don't need me to tell you. Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks, it's a delight. My number 9, Ratcatcher. Lynn Ramsey's Ratcatcher, her debut film. Tough hang, but a very good movie. My number 8, Divergent Suicides, our favorite Crispy R enthusiast, Sofia Coppola. My number 7 is Yves Bayou, which we just talked about. My number 6 is Little Man Tate, which was directed by and starred Jodie Foster and is very important because of its inclusion in the animated television show Hoops, because of its inclusion in the Jake Johnson basketball show Hoops, where it's a long-running joke. It's also a good movie. My number 5 is The Piano. My number 4 is To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which we also just talked about at great length. 3 and 2 are the Kathryn Bigelow movies, Point Break and Strange Days. And my number 1, Amy Heckerling's Clueless, the only 5-star movie on my list. But Strange Days is probably 5 stars also.
Alrighty, for mine. Okay. Should we mention The Matrix? I mean, they were the Wachowski brothers at the time, but now the
Wachowski sisters? I don't think I've seen The Matrix since like 2005, so I don't have it rated.
Oh, I watched it when the 4th one came out. I watched all 3 of them, and that was painful. But the first one is still awesome. I mean, it's a really cool movie, and plus, just its cultural and historical significance is huge. Totally. I think it's worth mentioning. It's not in my top 10, but I think it's worth just pointing out. At any rate, on my list, my number 10 is To Wong Fu, which we just talked about a great deal on this episode. My number 9 is Clueless, which I know I have underrated, but I just haven't seen it again to re-rate it, so it is where it is. My number 8 is Sofia Coppola's Virgin Suicides. My number 7, Nora Ephron's Sleepless in Seattle. I like both of the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan movies of the decade, but I just like this one a little bit more. Number 6, Awakenings by Penny Marshall, who will show up later on this list as well. My number 5, Kimberly Pierce's Boys Don't Cry, where Hilary Swank won her first Oscar, and Chloe Sevigny is incredible in that movie as well. My number 4 is Yves Bayou, which we spent a lot of time talking about, and we also spent a lot of time talking about my number 3, The Piano, and my number 2, Strange Days, and then my number 1 film directed by a woman in the 1990s is Penny Marshall's A League of Their Own, which I think is just like a perfect movie, and I absolutely adore.
Another one I haven't watched since childhood, so
it's
don't have
the only 5-star on my list too, but it's I love it.
I only have 2 never did it's on your list. I've never seen Boys Don't Cry, and I've never seen Awakenings, and I've been dying to see Awakenings.
You would like, I think you'd like both of them. I know on your list I have not seen Little Man Tate, and I've actually never seen Point Break for some reason.
That's crazy. We just watched it again recently.
Yeah, I need to watch it. I don't know why I haven't.
Point Break, you've got to see. It has what I think is the best foot chase ever put to film.
I don't know. Like I said, no, I haven't. I should have seen it by now.
All right, well, we'll be back next week. Jake's wife is joining us as we talk about 2 of the... Well, speaking of Lynn Ramsey, a Lynn Ramsey movie and a movie close to your wife's heart. 2 movies of the 2000s directed by women.